Whether I find a place in this world or never belong.
He sang his way into millions of hearts. But what happened when the spotlight faded? Steve Lawrence, once half of America's golden couple, now leaves behind an abandoned house, fading memories and unanswered questions. What led to his tragic decline? And where did all the fame and fortune go? Stay with us to know. The Home Built with Dreams. Steve Lawrence was more than just a voice of a generation. He was a man who rose from humble beginnings, conquered the world of entertainment, and created a life that many only dream of. But of all the stages he performed on, none meant more to him than the one he built in his own home. This wasn't just a house, it was a personal haven, a symbol of how far he'd come. And tragically, it became a silent witness to his decline and passing. Born Sidney Leibowitz in 1935 in Brooklyn, New York, Steve Lawrence grew up in a modest Jewish family. His father was a cantor, and music ran through their home like a quiet undercurrent. From a young age, Steve knew he had a gift, but like many artists of his era, success didn't come overnight. He worked tirelessly, performing in small clubs and auditioning for any opportunity that came his way. His big break came when he was hired as a regular on The Tonight Show with Steve Allen. That platform skyrocketed his career. In the early 1980s, Steve and his beloved wife, Adie, purchased a stunning beachfront property in Malibu, California. This wasn't just any home. It was a place they designed with love, care, and deep emotional attachment. The 4,284-square-foot contemporary house was perched on the edge of the Pacific Ocean, offering panoramic views of the water and sunsets that painted the sky with gold and pink. The house featured 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and high ceilings that made the interior feel grand yet welcoming. Natural light poured through its large windows and skylights, while hardwood floors and brick accents gave it a timeless charm. Outside, there was a private terrace and a brick patio that led straight onto the beach. For Steve, this was paradise. In several interviews, Steve called the Malibu house his peaceful place, a retreat from the chaos of showbiz. He spoke about writing songs while listening to the ocean, rehearsing with Adie in their sunlit living room, and hosting close friends for intimate dinner parties. This was not just a luxury estate. It was their home, built from years of hard work, dedication, and shared dreams. But life has a way of surprising us. In 2013, Steve lost Adie after nearly 6 decades of marriage. Her passing shattered him. Friends said the once lively home grew quieter, almost mournful, without her laughter echoing through its halls. As his health declined, especially after his Alzheimer's diagnosis in 2019, maintaining the home became difficult. In 2017, the Malibu Dream House was put on the market for nearly $10 million. The decision was heartbreaking for Steve, but it had become too much to manage. Despite its architectural beauty and emotional value, the home didn't find a buyer right away. It eventually fell into disrepair, becoming a shell of its former self. The vibrant house that once echoed with music and love stood eerily silent, abandoned, as though mourning the loss of its owners. This was not how Steve imagined it would end. In many of his interviews, he expressed his desire for the house to remain in the family, or at least be filled with joy and life. He never thought the place where he had poured his soul into would be left to decay. For a man who had struggled his way up from Brooklyn, who had known what it meant to have nothing, that house meant everything. When Steve Lawrence passed away in 2024 at the age of 88, his Malibu home tells a quieter story, one of dreams built with care, shared with a soulmate, and eventually surrendered to time. Today, Steve's abandoned home stands as a bittersweet monument. To some, it's just a property, but to those who knew his story, it's a reflection of a life well lived, a dream realized, and the inevitable truth that even the most beautiful songs must come to an end. The home built with dreams now holds memories instead of music, still touched by the spirit of a man who never forgot where he came from and who built something beautiful with every note he sang. Love Life of Steve Lawrence.
Hallelujah. sing a song.
Steve Lawrence had a love story that seemed straight out of a classic romance movie. But like many Hollywood tales, it came with twists, turns, and heartbreak. From backstage meetings to tabloid rumors, Steve's love life was both touching and tangled. Steve met Eddie Gourmet in the 1950s when both were up-and-coming stars. They first crossed paths on the set of Tonight Starring Steve Allen, where they were both regulars. Sparks flew fast. In interviews, Steve often said it was her laugh that got him. He described her as someone who lit up every room she walked into. Eddie, in return, once told People magazine that Steve had the kindest eyes she'd ever seen. They weren't just colleagues, they became best friends, stage partners, and soulmates. Their chemistry was undeniable, and in 1957 they tied the knot. It wasn't a grand Hollywood wedding, but a private ceremony, away from the flashing cameras. What followed was more than just a marriage. It was a professional partnership that saw them tour the world together, release multiple hit albums, and become one of the most iconic duos in music history. Despite their solid image, rumors always lingered. In the 60s and 70s, Steve was linked to a few names in gossip columns. Publications like National Enquirer and Star magazine hinted at brief flings during solo tours, especially in Las Vegas, where temptations ran high. There were whispers of Steve being seen with dancers and young starlets, but nothing was ever confirmed. Neither Steve nor Eddie publicly addressed these rumors. Friends close to the couple told Variety in a 1984 feature that Eddie chose to focus on the life they built together, not the whispers in the wind. What kept them grounded was their deep bond. In an interview with the New York Times in 2002, Steve opened up about the secret to their lasting love. "We never let show business come between us. When the lights went out, it was just Steve and Eddie. That was our world." Eddie echoed similar sentiments in Good Housekeeping, saying, "We argued like any couple, but we always came back to laughter. That's what saved us." The couple faced their share of personal pain, too. They lost one of their sons, Michael, in 1986 to heart failure. That tragedy shook their world. Steve later confessed to CBS Sunday Morning that he nearly quit singing. "The music didn't make sense without my son in the audience," he said, but Eddie pulled him through, reminding him that their son had always loved watching them perform. As the years rolled on, their bond only grew stronger. Even when Eddie fell ill and eventually passed away in 2013, Steve remained devoted. At her funeral, he broke down while singing "I'll Be Seeing You," their favorite song. He later told The Hollywood Reporter, "I wasn't just saying goodbye to my wife, I was saying goodbye to the best part of me." Though Steve mostly stayed out of the spotlight after Eddie's death, his past romances occasionally resurfaced. Some former acquaintances anonymously spoke to Vanity Fair in a 2015 retrospective, claiming that Steve had been emotionally distant in his younger years, often choosing his career over personal time. However, none of these accounts ever overshadowed the legacy of his decades-long love story with Eddie. Steve Lawrence's love life was marked by one undeniable truth. He loved hard, and he loved deeply. The affair rumors, the career pressures, and the personal losses were all chapters in a story that ultimately circled back to one woman. Eddie Gourmet wasn't just his wife. She was the rhythm to his melody, the harmony to his song. And their love, like their music, left a legacy that still echoes today. So, while the tabloids may have chased the scandals, the real story of Steve Lawrence's heart was one of devotion, loyalty, and a love that truly stood the test of time. Steve was no doubt a loving and kind husband, but you might be wondering, what kind of father was he? Let's tell you about that. Life with two sons.
That's my next thought.
For Steve Lawrence and Eddie Gourmet, their lives were always in the spotlight, but they worked hard to ensure their two sons, Michael and David, were raised in a grounded and loving environment. Despite their successful careers and constant touring, the couple managed to balance their stardom with their role as parents, providing a stable home life for their children. Their family life was filled with normal, everyday moments, alongside their famous performances. Steve and Adie were determined to instill strong values in their sons, especially when faced with the pressures of fame. Despite their careers taking them all over the country, they placed a strong emphasis on making sure their children had a sense of normalcy and were taught the importance of respect, hard work, and kindness. Both parents worked to be present in their children's lives, often taking them along on tours when possible. One of the most important lessons they imparted was the significance of family. Steve and Adie frequently spoke about how they made family life a priority, regardless of their busy schedules. While their professional lives were full of glitz and glamour, at home, they created a warm, nurturing environment where their children could grow up with love and security. Steve and Adie managed to keep their home life private, away from the prying eyes of the media. Despite their fame, they made conscious decisions to protect their sons from the overwhelming attention that often comes with being the children of celebrities. Family vacations and quiet nights at home were cherished moments for the Lawrence Gourmet family. The family spent a lot of time at their home in Los Angeles, where Steve and Adie created a sanctuary for their children. There, Michael and David were able to experience a sense of normalcy, enjoying the simple things in life like playing sports, attending school, and spending time with their parents away from the spotlight. Growing up with parents in the entertainment industry wasn't without its challenges, and Michael and David Lawrence had to navigate life in the public eye. From an early age, they were accustomed to attending high-profile events, such as their parents' performances in Las Vegas and their televised specials. However, Steve and Adie worked hard to ensure their sons were not defined by their famous last name. One notable event in their sons' lives came when Michael Lawrence, their eldest son, decided to pursue a career in entertainment. Michael's choice to follow in his parents' footsteps was an indication of the influence Steve and Adie had on him. Michael became a producer and director, working behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. Steve and Adie were supportive, but they also encouraged him to follow his own path and make his own mark in the industry. Michael Robert Lawrence tragically passed away on February 5, 1986, at the age of 23. He died at UCLA Medical Center after being brought in unconscious and treated for an irregular heartbeat. An autopsy revealed that the cause of death was a heart disorder, specifically an abnormal heart function, and there was no evidence of drugs or alcohol involved. At the time of his death, Michael was working as an assistant film editor on the television show It's a Living. Michael's sudden and untimely passing was a devastating loss for his family, and it marked a profoundly sorrowful chapter in the lives of Steve and Adie. David Lawrence, the couple's second son, stayed away from the entertainment world and led a more private life. His decision to keep out of the limelight was respected by his parents, and he enjoyed a quieter existence, far removed from the pressures of fame. Both brothers grew up with a sense of independence, but always with the strong foundation their parents had provided. Steve and Adie's dedication to their sons was unwavering, and their relationship with them was rooted in love, support, and respect. Both sons often accompanied their parents on tour, giving them an inside view of the entertainment industry and the sacrifices that came with it. However, the couple made it a point to balance their public and private lives, ensuring that their sons had the chance to experience both worlds. As parents, they emphasized the importance of staying grounded and treating others with kindness, no matter how famous one might become. Steve and Adie's relationship with their sons was about shared moments on the road or during family gatherings and about fostering a deep emotional connection. Their love for their children was always evident as they showed up for important milestones in their lives, whether it was school events, graduations, or personal achievements. Same happened with Steve Lawrence. No matter how bright the spotlight once shined, even the most cherished voices eventually faded. The tragic decline of a star.
We know Grammy and Emmy Award-winning pop singer Steve Lawrence has died at the age of 88. His publicist says Lawrence died from Alzheimer's disease.
The world of entertainment stood still on the day that Steve Lawrence, the beloved crooner whose voice had captivated audiences for decades, passed away. Known for his smooth vocals and timeless charm, Steve had been a star since the 1950s, but his final years were marked by health struggles that no one could have predicted for the man who had once owned the stage with ease. As the years passed, Steve's health began to decline. After the death of his wife, Eddie Gourmet, in 2013, Steve seemed to lose a part of himself. The love of his life and musical partner for over 50 years was gone, leaving him heartbroken. The emotional toll took a physical toll, too. Though he tried to keep performing, age and illness began to take their toll. His once vibrant performances became fewer, and fans noticed his energy waning. By the time Steve was in his late 70s, his health had deteriorated significantly. Heart issues, which had plagued him for years, worsened, and his mobility became increasingly limited. He still found comfort in music, but the physical demands of live performances had become too much. With each passing year, the world watched as the man who had once been at the pinnacle of fame, performing alongside legends like Frank Sinatra, faded into the shadows of his former self. Despite his declining health, Steve's spirit never wavered. He continued to show up for his fans, always smiling, always trying to give them the best of himself, even when his body no longer allowed it. His final years were marked by a deep sense of gratitude for his long and successful career, yet they were also filled with profound sorrow. Losing Eddie had taken its toll, and his own health challenges left him unable to perform at the level that had once made him a household name. Steve's declining health was a heartbreaking reality for those who had followed his career for decades. His battle with heart disease became public, and fans anxiously watched as his condition worsened. The man who had brought joy to so many with his legendary performances was now confined to his home, unable to entertain in the way he once had. His illness, combined with the grief of losing his beloved wife, marked a tragic turning point in Steve's life. The once indomitable star was now fighting a battle against time, and no one knew just how much longer he could hang on. In the months leading up to his death, Steve's condition grew more serious. He was surrounded by family and close friends who offered him comfort and support as he faced his final days. Though Steve never gave up on the idea of performing again, his body simply could not keep up. He was, at last, facing the inevitable end of his remarkable life. When Steve Lawrence passed away on 7th March 2025 at the age of 88, the world lost a legend. The news was met with an overwhelming sense of loss from fans and the entertainment industry alike. Those who had seen him perform live or had followed his career on television mourned the loss of an icon. Steve's passing left a void in the hearts of millions. He had been a constant presence in their lives for decades, providing comfort, joy, and nostalgia. In his final days, Steve had spent time reflecting on his incredible life. He reminisced about the highs and lows of his career, his deep love for Eddie, and the remarkable journey they had shared together. It was a bittersweet farewell for the man who had given so much to the world of music and entertainment. Steve's last performance was a quiet one, away from the spotlight. He had no grand final show or farewell tour, just a private moment of reflection on the legacy he had built. But in his heart, Steve knew he had done enough. His songs, his performances, and his love for music would live on forever, even if he couldn't sing them one last time. When news of Steve Lawrence's death broke, the entertainment world was shaken. Tributes poured in from friends, colleagues, and fans, all mourning the loss of a man who had been a staple in show business for over 60 years. Stars like Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra Jr., and countless others expressed their sorrow, remembering Steve not just as a fellow performer, but as a friend and mentor. Steve's legacy as a performer will forever live on through his music. His voice, his charm, and his dedication to his craft had made him an unforgettable figure in the industry. Though his final days were filled with pain and struggle, his contributions to the world of music would continue to resonate with generations of fans. The tragedy of his decline was overshadowed by the beauty of the life he had led, a life full of love, music, and memories that will never be forgotten. Steve Lawrence's death prompted an outpouring of tributes from fellow artists, celebrities, and fans, reflecting the profound impact he had on the entertainment industry. Carol Burnett, a longtime friend and collaborator, expressed deep sorrow over Lawrence's passing. She shared, "Steve was one of my favorite guests on my variety show, appearing 39 times. He was also my very close friend, so close that I considered him family. He will always be in my heart." Actor and producer Seth MacFarlane honored Lawrence's musical talent, stating, "R.I.P. Steve Lawrence. This guy has been a musical hero of mine for years. His effortless baritone and superb phrasing made the most difficult songs sound easy." Actor and singer Robert Davi also paid his respects. "Steve Lawrence has passed. He was a marvelous talent on his own. He and his wife, Eddie Gorma, were legendary. I never met him, but we spoke one time on the phone and had a blast. R.I.P. and keep heaven singing." Lawrence's son, David, shared a touching message. "My dad was an inspiration to so many people, but to me, he was just this charming, handsome, hysterically funny guy who sang a lot, sometimes alone and sometimes with his insanely talented wife." Then came the question everyone was quietly asking after Steve's passing. What was his net worth, and who would inherit the legacy he left behind? His net worth and legacy today. By the time of his death in 2021, Steve Lawrence had accumulated an impressive portfolio of assets. His wealth primarily stemmed from his decades-long career in music, acting, and television. Steve Lawrence's net worth was estimated to be $10 million. While that may seem modest compared to today's multi-millionaire entertainers, it reflects a career that evolved long before the era of modern royalties, brand deals, and streaming platforms. Lawrence's career began in the 1950s, and he was known for songs like "Go Away Little Girl" and "Shing-a-Ling." As his career progressed, his musical talents allowed him to build a large following, securing lucrative recording contracts and performances at some of the most famous venues in the world. In addition to his music career, Lawrence appeared on numerous television programs, including his self-titled show in the 1960s, which further bolstered his financial standing. Over the years, his various television appearances, concerts, and even performances in Las Vegas kept him in the public eye and provided consistent streams of income. Lawrence also owned several properties, the most notable of which was his home in Beverly Hills. This estate was more than just a residence. It represented the culmination of his dreams and hard work. While exact valuations for this property are not publicly disclosed, similar properties in Beverly Hills could easily range in value from $10 million to $20 million or more. The house, with its luxurious amenities, stunning views, and private grounds, was undoubtedly one of his most valuable assets. It is believed that this home, along with any other real estate Lawrence owned, would form a significant portion of his estate's value. With stunning views of Los Angeles, a spacious living area, and private grounds, Lawrence's home was as much a symbol of his hard-earned success as it was a sanctuary for him and his family. He was extremely proud of the property, often speaking about it in interviews, noting how it represented everything he had worked for. The house was not just a home, it was a manifestation of the comfort and success Lawrence had worked tirelessly to achieve. However, after his death, the fate of the property became a subject of much curiosity. His estate, including his home, would ultimately be inherited by his surviving family. Upon his death, the question of who would inherit Lawrence's fortune quickly emerged. The general assumption was that his wealth would be passed down to his children. His long and successful career had undoubtedly left them with a comfortable inheritance, including his vast collection of assets, ranging from his home in Beverly Hills to other property holdings, cash, and personal belongings. It's important to note that Lawrence and his wife, Eddie Gorma, were married for nearly 6 decades before her passing in 2013. Their relationship was a source of admiration, and their professional partnership was integral to both of their successes. Together, they amassed considerable wealth through their joint ventures in music and television. While much of Gorma's estate would have been inherited by her children, much of their collective wealth would pass to their heirs as part of a larger family legacy. Steve Lawrence's son, David Lawrence, who was involved in the entertainment business, was likely to play a significant role in managing his father's estate. The management of Steve Lawrence's wealth, properties, and assets would have been a collaborative process, with his children handling their father's legacy while making decisions about his estate's future. One of the key aspects of Lawrence's legacy was his enduring presence in the entertainment industry. His music and performances continue to be celebrated even after his passing, and his influence on the world of popular music and television remains significant. Lawrence's contributions to the world of entertainment are remembered not just in the wealth he amassed, but in the way he shaped the entertainment landscape, particularly during the mid-20th century. Though his estate was ultimately inherited by his family, Steve Lawrence's legacy extended beyond just material wealth. His music and contributions to television left an indelible mark on the entertainment industry, and his name remains synonymous with timeless classics and legendary performances. His influence continues to resonate, not only in the world of show business, but also in the way entertainers are remembered long after they've passed. In the years following his death, Lawrence's music has been featured in retrospectives, documentaries, and various tribute shows. His voice, once heard in countless hits and television appearances, still resonates with fans who remember him as one of the greats of his time. His role in popularizing certain genres of music and his ability to entertain audiences through both song and comedy ensured that his place in entertainment history was secure. Lawrence's legacy is a reminder of the perseverance and talent it took to succeed in a competitive and ever-changing industry. From his humble beginnings to his rise as a beloved figure in entertainment, Steve Lawrence's story continues to inspire. Lawrence was not just a performer, he was a storyteller, an entertainer, and a cornerstone of an era. His passing was deeply felt by fellow artists, longtime fans, and industry figures who understood the scope of his contributions. What are your memories of Steve Lawrence? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found this story moving, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss more deep dives into the lives of legendary figures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.